Good evening. Happy Sunday. Today's July 31st, 2022. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics. Tonight, what happened on January 6th? Are we being told everything? I'm going to play some videos and let you make the decision. Join me. Good evening, I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, what happened on January 6th? I go over some videos from that day and discuss what really happened. Good evening, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, I get away a little bit from the local politics and talk about January 6th. Now, I'm a Democrat. I'm a registered Democrat. I was actually a registered independent, and then I became a Democrat. And I consider myself conservative Democrat. I've heard that term and kind of fits with who I am. So, I'm not Republican, Trumpster, and this is in no way support of either outcome, whether you think it was an insurrection or whether you believed it wasn't, it was a setup. I'm just here to present videos and you guys make a decision. So anyway, recently I saw a clip from the January 6th investigations on YouTube. But after having seen video after video from not only journalists who were there, but many of the cell phone footage that was compiled, and I could only watch and shake my head at what was being said at these hearings. My objective tonight is not to present some conspiracy theory and try to convince you it's real or convince you of any opinion. My only hope is that all Americans are willing to look at all of the video footage from that day and not rely on the corporate media to show only the clips they want people to see. I have to warn you, some of it is graphic as people are seen beaten by batons, even while they're dead. And even one woman is shot in cold blood, killed instantly, for simply trying to escape the madness after she attempted to stop and yet to be arrested or identified man who was breaking the window of the door that led to the chambers where the vote was being discussed. The clip I will show in a little bit is one that is rarely, if ever, shown on mainstream news outlet. And when they do show it, it starts at the moment the woman is shot. And not only, and doesn't show the entire clip, doesn't show what happened before, what she was actually trying to do before she tried to climb through the window. For me personally, it's not about a party or politics for that matter. It's about truth. Even more important, the unchecked power some have within our government that possesses a threat to the freedom of all of us. Regardless of race, sexual preference, and or political party, this is about the future of this country for all and how it will be for our country, for our kids, for our grandkids, if we allow those who are elected officials to manipulate the people for the sole purpose of creating a constant state of chaos in which they are able to turn Americans against Americans, right, to continue to maintain power. Recently, I saw a well put together documentary which features an independent investigative journalist who lays out what he saw from videos, interviews, and foiled documents. The protesters were there, and this is what happened on January 6th. If you don't know already what was going on, there were protesters there, or Trump supporters, who were there to listen to Donald Trump's final speech as president, a speech that has been used by the official government's investigation as the reason the protesters, who were all mostly called rioters by CNN, headed to the Capitol building in what they claimed was an attempted insurrection by Trump loyalists, white supremacists, and MAGA fanatics. However, videos from that day tell a bit of a different story. While it does show protesters scaling walls and pushing barriers, eventually making their way into the Capitol building, the videos I'm going to show you here helps you understand why people began to get crazy and go chaotic and begin to climb walls. After Donald Trump's speech, people headed over to the Capitol building to protest the elections. Upon arriving at the Capitol building, the protesters were initially just standing there. They were for the most part, not doing a whole lot, just kind of, shouting and yelling and stuff like that. But they weren't trying to go through barriers or break or climb walls, right? So then what happened? How did all hell break loose? I want to show a clip here from a gentleman by the name of Joseph Hanneman. He's an investigative journalist for Epoch Times, and he, goes over some of the videos. And I just want to play this first clip here and talk about it.
Violence on January 6th. How did the police factor into this? I mean, who was really instigating things? Which side?
Well, there was plenty of police provocation. The initial use of explosive munitions that day, that started at about 1:25 in the afternoon, where the police launched explosives into the crowd, which was pretty much just milling there and standing. And these were very loud, deafening. And some of them had projectiles, hard plastic pellets that rained down, and some had tear gas in them. But when they landed in the middle, they caused injuries, and they got a very angry response. That was a large crowd. From what I saw, there was quite a few older people in that crowd, and they fired munitions even far to the back, people that wouldn't have known what was going on up front. So this created an atmosphere that I think percolated through the rest of the day. And they continued firing into this crowd well over an hour using those, what I would call heavy munitions. So I don't know what their strategy was in using munitions, which they had said they were not going to use the less than lethal force munitions and things like that on January 6th.
Were the actions of the Capitol Police out of line? Were there violations in use of force? And what are the legalities of this? We spoke with Stan Keffard, one of the nation's top experts on police use of force and one of the top-rated expert witnesses in court cases on crowd control. Keffard has 42 years of law enforcement experience, including as security director for the 1984 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. He served as an officer, detective, undersheriff, and chief of police at jurisdictions in Arizona, California, and Missouri. He has testified more than 350 times in federal, state, and tribal courts.
Supervisory failure. A frontline supervisor, a sergeant, or whoever's in control, a lieutenant, should have put those people in posted positions or in a skirmish line or in a defense posture, put them between the objective that they were protecting and the crowd. That wasn't being done. That was a shooting gallery up there, a congregation of officers. I didn't see a supervisor among them who were using these munitions to inflict harm.
We're talking about violence on January 6th.
So, according to investigative journalist Joseph Hanneman, there was a communication, poor communication, poor police planning. He didn't see any supervisors there. He called it a shooting gallery. And, if you watch the entire documentary, they are elevated and shooting down at the crowd. So initially what he was saying is that they were there just standing around protesting, and all of a sudden some police officer, one or two, and there's one that's just going crazy. He's asking people for more ammunition, and he's taking them right off their vest and then loading into his gun and shooting it right into the crowd. He was just going crazy. And he's saying that that's what led to people started to go crazy. They started to shoot these flashbangs into the crowd while they were just standing there. And that's dangerous because they let off kind of an explosion, and is actually, I may show the clip here of people's clothes catching on fire. Also, 2 individuals died instantly the minute a flashbang blew up near them, both having a heart attack, and they died right there on the spot. And I just wanted to mention that because that's something I didn't even know. I don't hear about this on the news. And I just think it's very important that we hear everything, and we see all the footage that's there, though they're not showing everything, the footage from the inside, but we should listen to everything and watch everything because I think it's very important. So, throwing these explosives into that crowd got them going crazy, and eventually people began to scale walls. And I want to show one individual who started to climb a wall and what happened to him when he did that. And that was a big mistake.
The protester was climbing the wall. He had seen somebody put a giant American flag up on the scaffolding for inauguration, and he wanted to put his Trump flag up. He scaled the wall, and when he got up there, he didn't have a chance to put the flag up. A couple officers took swipes at him over the rail and missed him, But then he actually got into a standing position, and a motorcycle police officer from Capitol Police came up with a pretty good stride and shoved him, and he fell at least 20 feet and was seriously injured. That was witnessed by a lot of people. And then when they carried him out, a lot of the crowd saw the after effects of that, and they were very upset.
My analysis of a police officer pushing somebody off the wall is that that individual is committing a crime, a very serious crime, again, putting that person's life at risk. It is unconscionable for an officer to do such a thing. The officer is required to take that person off the wall, strip cuff them, take them into custody, and arrest them.
Hold tight, we're getting munitions. Hey, we're coming.
What is happening here? Why is this officer behaving like this? And his behavior seems to be a lot different from the other officers.
That was the cop that was going
September
a little crazy
6th,
there.
2021,
You know, and so he was running around grabbing ammunition from other officers saying, you got more, and kept shooting them into the crowd. Now, you saw the man there climbing up. He was trying to put the Trump flag up on the wall. And so what the expert there said was that the right thing to have been done by the officers would have been to grab him, pull him over the wall, and immediately handcuff him and, you know, put him in jail. Not push him off the wall where he fell 20 feet and had to be taken away in a stretcher. And again, that's something you don't see on CNN, even Fox News. And is that okay, whether you agree with the protesters or rioters, however you label them? Is that okay? Had that happened at other protests, would people have been fine with that, or would everyone been calling for that police officer's head? Yet no one seems to really care about, because it's a Trump supporter. And I just don't find that, as a spiritual person, I don't think that that's okay. They support Trump, they support whoever. They still should not be treated that way. You know, and many of the people that are supporting that kind of treatment to those individuals are people who are constantly fighting for the equality and the rights of other groups. You know, so I just find that a bit hypocritical. And so again, I'm not trying to convince anyone. I just think that specific act there is not okay. And I want to move on now to the shooting of Ashley Babbitt. Forgot her name correct.
There was a severe beating of a woman named Victoria. Are these really suspicious individuals? What is suspicious about these individuals in the scene?
And really quick, before I get into that video, another thing that they mentioned here is suspicious individuals. There were about a total of 20 suspicious actors, as they called them, individuals who broke windows, held doors open, encouraged people to go into the Capitol building, who were never identified or arrested. Even though they hunted people down who were just trespassing, who just entered into the Capitol building, individuals that you'll see here, like one of them who was breaking the glass that the woman who was shot wanted to go in through, was nothing was happening to him. Nothing. And so again, there's suspicious actors who were there breaking windows, encouraging people to go in, pulling out the windows from the window panes or whatever you call that, and they were never identified and never arrested. And I don't know if they even are looking for them.
The number of them, to begin with, Ashley Babbitt, when she made her way up to the window, she was surrounded by people who fit that definition. In her immediate vicinity surrounding her, there were probably 3 or 4.
3 or 4 suspicious actors and 20 suspicious actors total.
Yes.
In that room, in that area.
And one of them, who was an instigator, Zachary Alam, he was the one bashing the window with a black helmet, and he knocked out several window panes. And Ashley Babbitt kind of had a running spar with him. She was screaming at him to stop. She stepped forward and she punched him in the face.
Ashley Babbitt tried to stop this individual then, you're saying?
She did. She got after the police officers who were there. Why aren't you stopping this? You know, and, you know, she's been portrayed as a rioter, as a seditionist. But it's very clear in the video and the audio that she was very upset and trying to stop what was happening, because they were bashing in the glass and the doors that lead to the speaker's lobby and right onto the House floor. And then when her husband is totally convinced that when she does the punch to Zachary Alam, she had decided that she needed to escape from that hallway, that it had gotten scary, the conditions. The SWAT team was coming up the stairs, and she was afraid of crowded places.
I want to rewind this for a little bit, because this is important and this is strange to me.
Was coming up the
Notice
stairs,
the SWAT team.
And she was afraid of crowded places. The SWAT team was coming up the stairs, the hallway, that it had gotten
See these cops
scary,
going down the stairs here?
The SWAT team was...
Those cops initially, if I play the entire video, and just for the sake of time, I'm not showing every single thing. Those cops you see walking down the steps just before you see the SWAT team guys coming up were in front of that door. There were 3 of them. But for some reason, and they were armed, for some reason, they walked to the side. Well, if you're standing there, walked to their left, and then began walking down the stairs as you see them there. And then that's when the gentleman that he named there started banging the window with the black helmet. My question immediately was, why did these officers walk away from the door? Why? That's when they started to try and break the window, as soon as they walked away. And so did you see Ashley Babbitt, the woman that was shot? She tried to stop him from breaking the window. This is a woman that's being called a terrorist on every national news outlet. She's being called a terrorist. She tried to stop the guy from breaking the window. And after he broke the window and she saw how chaotic it was, SWAT team coming up with guns, she tried to just get out of there. And there's even some video from the inside that shows her calling for help, because she saw that there were people on the other side and she just wanted to get through just to escape the crowd, because they had gotten out of hand and she was shot. And instead they're calling her a terrorist. That's her legacy. She's a terrorist. Let me show the rest of the video.
Coming up the stairs, and she was afraid of crowded places. So she decided, I have to get out of here. When she climbed up in the window, there were 2 suspicious actors, one on either side of her. We don't have a clear enough video angle to see if either one of them pushed her up into the window or helped her into the window, but they were in that position on either side of her. And then when she was shot and fell back, again, these same several suspicious actors were right around her when she fell and was laying there. So it raises all sorts of questions. What role did they have? How did they all get there at the same time along with all these other people?
Another suspicious point with all this is one of the individuals who breaks this glass is communicating with another one. We can watch him in the video. And then as the SWAT team is moving up the stairs, this individual goes back down the stairs and looks like he's changing his clothes.
Zachary Alam did that when he saw Ashley had been shot. He realized it. You can see on the video, he physically responds. He almost jumps back, and the look of horror. He was genuinely terrified. It certainly seemed to be, even though he had created the conditions that led to that by the violence with the helmet and the smashed glass. And he did go down the stairs and did not come back up. But there were a number of people on the stairs that we haven't been able to identify and also haven't been charged, and who were familiar enough with the police to go up to them and say things or pat them on the back. Who they are, we still haven't figured out. But for that many unidentified people to be in a space where there was a fatality like that, it goes to our longer list of burning questions.
News outlets have tried.
So, again, this is why I'm showing this, because there's a lot of strange things, a lot of anomalies that just have not fully been explained. And as I'm watching this, on YouTube, this investigation, this hearing that they've been having, which I don't understand why they're investigating. I mean, it's basically they're stating Donald Trump is guilty of inciting an insurrection, and these were insurrectionists, and they were terrorists, and they were following their leaders' orders from jump. That's how they just talk about it. So, and they contradict themselves because, they just are, you have to watch it. But I was just shaking my head and saying that this is crazy. But what about all these suspicious actors, these individuals that had not been caught, who were involved, who were breaking windows, who were seen opening doors, who were seen, with earpieces? There's videos with guys with earpieces like mine, the one that I wear here. Why? Who were they? So it's not about Republican or Democrat. And that's what they want us to make it. That keeps us fighting each other. And when we cannot get along or unite, we don't communicate, we don't realize what's really going on. And that's how the powers that be want it. And we have to understand that. It's all about creating a division. And at the end of the day, we have to focus on what's right and the truth. And regardless if she's a Democrat or Republican, which obviously she's a Republican, if she was shot and the person that did it, whether a police officer or not, committed a crime by doing so, that person should be arrested, because we've seen incidents like that before and there has been major outcry. This is a woman that was a veteran. She was in the military. She was not a criminal. She was in support of her party, of her president. We should all be allowed to do that without fear of being shot. We've seen worse protests before. We've seen billions of dollars in property damage in protests before. Yet we call these specific individuals terrorists. And I'm just trying to understand why. Why? We should always question our government. We should always question our government. Always. And we should always know all the facts and have all the information. I think it's very important. I just want to show this one last clip. This is about an individual who was arrested. This is crazy. Some of these people are being held without bail for trespassing. And when you think of bail reform here in New York and the individuals who have been released immediately, it doesn't make sense. And we have to ask ourselves, why doesn't it make sense? We can't just accept it. We can't. I feel bad for this guy because he was arrested. He was facing 20 years for trespassing. Unfortunately, he couldn't deal with that.
Some defendants were denied bail and still sit behind bars. To be charged even with trespassing meant being shunned by the community as traitors or insurrectionists. Some were fired for their jobs based only on allegations. For one of the defendants, Matthew Perna, the pressure was too much. He pled guilty to a felony charge of obstructing Congress and also misdemeanor charges. For these, he was facing over 20 years in prison, and he decided to end his own life. His aunt, Jerry Perna, said the charges that led to his death were unjustified.
The way they're going after people is absolutely insane. And then on the other hand, on the other side of the coin, you have people committing crimes, blatantly robbing and looting stores in California and places, and they're not even being arrested. You can steal up to $900 and not even be arrested, but you can't walk into the Capitol, the people's house, with police saying, come on in. Nothing about this is normal. I don't put anything past them at this point. I don't. They're out for blood, and they're getting it. They appear to be winning. I believe with Matt and with many other of the J6ers, I believe that this DOJ jumped the gun on these felony charges with many of them. And I believe they just randomly passed these charges out and then decided to look for the evidence. And in Matt's case and so many others, they simply didn't have the evidence. But it was a roller coaster of emotion from that point on, constant. And he was watching the other cases and how they were pleading, comparing his case to their case. Every time he had a hearing, it was delayed. He would gear himself up mentally, prepare himself, and they would delay it. Sometimes they would tell him when it would be. Sometimes it was indefinitely delayed. Or it was discovery. They don't have enough, they're still going through the discovery process. And that was mentally exhausting for him. It contributed immensely to Matt's suicide. It did. It was a head game that they were playing with him. They're playing it with the rest of the J6ers. They're playing head games, and it's working. Matt was a very kind-hearted person. He had a smile that would light up a room. He was very thoughtful. He loved talking to people. That was a gift of his. He could sit down with a stranger in a coffee shop and just start having a conversation with them, and he loved learning about their life.
That's sad. I mean, this guy, he was scared of going to jail. He was facing 20 years. He had a felony charge for trespassing in the Capitol building. But here's what's strange about that. That building, on any other normal day, is very secure. You can't just open the door and walk in. They have magnetic locks. And I've had footage from inside security video where a gentleman is inside walking out and he points to the camera, then to the door, as if to say, unlock it. And then he waits a second, it unlocks, and then he opens it and allows the people outside in. Why did he do that? How did they access the building so easily? If we go and protest now, and I've been at a protest here in Yonkers where people walked in up to City Hall and they were very upset, very angry. There were a lot of emotions. I remember that protest. They would not be able to just walk into City Hall. Those doors would be locked. There would be officers inside as well as outside. And, when we were at that protest, and I was there in support, but I saw that it was getting out of hand. There were a lot of young people. Police officers here in Yonkers handled that well. They didn't throw flashbangs into the crowd, and it got hot. They were walking up into the police officer's face here in Yonkers. I remember that. Actually, I had left and I came back because I kind of saw that on the live, and I said, man, I would hate for something to happen. So God, thank God nothing did. But the police officers handled that well. They didn't react like these Capitol police officers did, shooting flashbangs and going crazy and inciting the crowd. They assured that City Hall was locked. So if people managed to get through the police, no one was going to be able to walk in. Why weren't those doors locked as soon as they saw that a large crowd was gathering there, if for some reason they don't have them locked already? Why did that gentleman who was inside ask that they be open and then allow people to walk in? I mean, these are just strange anomalies that we just have to ask why. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. Doesn't matter. We should never allow these things to just happen. And we have to ask questions. And that's why I did this podcast tonight. It's not to try to convince you either way, just to show you that there are these strange anomalies, from suspicious actors who have never been identified or arrested, to the individual opening up the doors, to the woman that was shot and no one talks about it. They simply call her a terrorist, but they don't show that she was trying to stop the individual from breaking that glass, and that she simply was trying to escape a situation she saw had gotten out of hand. And is that okay because she's a Republican Trump supporter to just shoot her and say, oh well, should have never been there? If that's the case, then we have to go back and review some of the shootings that a lot of those who support in calling the J6ers terrorists, and see if they should actually reconsider the outcomes of those shootings between police and unarmed people. Right? We have to be fair. Always. I mean, that's what BLM protests were all about. The shooting of an unarmed black man, or just the shooting of an unarmed individual, a human, an American, by police officers. This time it happened and no one cares. They call her a terrorist gladly. No one seems to be upset about it. I don't understand that. That's not cool with me. It's strange, very strange to me. That's very strange to me. And because of that, I just think something's up here. I just think something is up here, folks. And I think that we all need to kind of see it together. We have to understand what's happening here. This doesn't benefit Democrats. You think rounding these people up benefits you Democrats, benefits us Democrats, benefits you liberals, benefits us liberals, right? You, us, does it? You think, stripping away the guns of law-abiding citizens is going to benefit Democrats or anyone who is pro-gun? I mean, a pro-gun control and more, it's not. It never does. Doesn't benefit any of us when they put more of these laws and, restrictions, make secret plans to commit an unlawful or harmful act, to conspire, to make, right. Did these individuals make a secret plan, or did they just, go crazy once they started to get flashbanged by the police officers? I mean, these grenades have projectiles in it. They cause explosions. People's clothes were on fire. 2 individuals instantly had heart attacks and dropped dead. Another woman also suffered a heart attack. She went into cardiac arrest. And what's crazy is that there was a woman officer beating her lifeless body as she laid there dead. She kept beating her. And as people tried to go and grab her out of there and help her, they got beat. I mean, and eventually police grabbed her by the leg and just dragged her into the building somewhere, but she was dead. And no one talks about that. But everyone talks about the cop that died the next day. And they attribute it to January 6th and the rioters. It was their fault he died. But what about the 2 guys that died of a heart attack right there that day after the flashbang went off? Are there no guilt or no responsibility in the police officer for that? That's not even how they're supposed to use those things. What about the woman that was beat after she was dead? And what about Ashley Babbitt, who was shot in cold blood? There was never an investigation. The officer didn't even have to give a statement, which is against police protocol. He was allowed to have an attorney when, as a police officer, and if you're involved in a shooting, you must answer questions or you lose your job. But he got some special privileges. And they still yet to really release his name or his picture. But other officers who shot an unarmed individual, blasted all over the media, name, years on the force, family, everything. I just don't understand. Was she doing something that much different that she deserved to be shot? Even if what they say is true, and she was breaking the glass and trying to go through, did she deserve to be shot? Not a warning? She didn't even see the guy. He was in a kind of around a corner. She couldn't even see him. She can only see some people that were down the hall. So, I mean, for people to think that's okay just because you're against Trump and, that's not okay. It's not human as a human. That's not okay. Forget politics. Politics is the devil. I mean, I'm starting to realize that. It's like, so it's not okay. And I just don't understand why we don't have more empathy and sympathy for a veteran who was shot in cold blood, an unarmed veteran shot in cold blood by a police officer who was not following protocol. Something that we've seen time and time again in the past. And there's been a lot of outrage. So we have to stop being like that as people. We have to stop being hypocritical, right? How does that say? What's good for the goose is not for the something gander, or whatever that saying is. It's not okay. Another definition: to conspire, to seem to be working together to bring about a particular result, typically someone's detriment. Everything conspires to exacerbate the situation. Yeah, I don't think they conspired. I don't think they they had no weapons, nothing. I mean, they had flags. But somehow they managed to have ladders. Where did ladders appear from? There was like this long ladder, a speaker box, desk from a drawers, I should say, from a desk. So that was a suspicious item. And remember, during the BLM movement protest, they were finding suspicious stones and bricks that were just randomly left places where the protesters were going to be. I mean, this happened during the BLM protest, folks. You know, we have to see what's going on. I got video from BLM protesters where this guy's dressed in black going and breaking windows of businesses for absolutely no reason. Even the real protesters, because those guys, they weren't real protesters. The real protesters were even trying to stop them. Same thing with the Ashley Babbitt situation. There's some kind of the real conspiracy or to conspire or, you know, secret plans is the one that's been put together by our government, I believe, to infiltrate these movements and really create chaos. Because it happened in the BLM. There were suspicious actors also in the BLM protests. They were the ones breaking most of the gas and doing the damages. And the same happened here. So this is why we have to get together and realize what's going on. Divided, we will fall. Only united we stand, right? The guy who shot Ashley Babbitt, his name is Michael Bird. The news media never talks about him. Yes, and he was a black police officer. Why do I say that? Because he was. White police officers, they don't get the same courtesy. So, folks, we got to see that there's a real agenda here to really cause division among us and cause chaos. I mean, do you not realize which industries are being most affected? Food, your food prices going up, transportation, gas, health care, housing, affordable housing shortage, housing prices going through the roof. You see what's being attacked here? You have to think about that. What's going on? What's going on here? Why are we having food shortages? Gas prices now, you know, oh, they're coming down. They're still over $4. That's sad when we're so happy that gas prices are down, but they're still $4.20 for regular gas. We were at 2 something, remember? Right? But now they keep setting the bar, right? And then we keep getting used to a certain. But think about that. We have these supply chain issues, but it's affecting our food prices, gas, transportation, health, housing, and that sustainable energy stuff. I could do a whole podcast about that and why that's being implemented throughout the country. What you see here in Yonkers, sustainable Westchester, is not unique. They have a sustainable Shelby County, sustainable, LA County. All this going green with the smart meters. What makes them smart? Think about it. All that digital stuff that can connect via Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, that's not okay. You want that in your house? Someone can literally hack into your home, shut down your power. A hacker can do that if he's smart enough, if he knows what he's doing. That's dangerous. But why are we getting smart meters, smart street poles, the lights that have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi capability that can read and communicate with your phone? They tell you this. Why? Why do I want the street light to communicate with my phone? Will it be able to communicate with my car as well when I'm driving down the road? Sure. Oh, yeah, because that's how it keeps you from crashing into people in cars. Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah, okay. Oh, perfect. That's what I want. Intrude in my life to make my life safer because I don't know how to be safe on my own. All right. It's all about keeping us safe in the name of safety. But we have to, think about what's going what's going on here. What's really going on here? You guys got to pay attention to the global stage, the World Economic Forum, and what's going on with those guys in the Great Reset and their Agenda 21, the whole climate change. What is that about? Truly, what is that about? Really? We could have been all electric a long time ago, right? There's a documentary actually about the electric cars, the first ones that came out. And back, I think it was the early 90s, they were ready for mass production, but the oil giants, OPEC and the oil cartels just would not allow it. So they destroyed all these electric cars. Actually, they looked like the little Volts when they were coming out on the Priuses and stuff. So we could have done this decades ago. Right. So, I mean, and it's not like they didn't know where we would go. I mean, there's books you can go and read about peak oil. Matter of fact, I got one right here. crossing the Rubicon. It talks about peak oil, right? So this is nothing new. We knew that, there'd become a time when we would have energy crisis. So why didn't we convert decades ago? Come on, think about that, man. They're playing with us, folks. And if you don't educate yourself, don't be indoctrinated. Be educated. Knowledge. You have to educate yourself. You have to do your own research. Your mind would be blown, right? But by the things you would find here. Anyway, so you just could have done it years ago. They could have done it decades ago. Anyway, folks, I want to come back to Yonkers. There's an entire other agenda with all that technology. 1,000%. I mean, they had electric scooters in 1920. I've seen videos of it, actually. I've seen videos. I mean, listen to when they first started doing footage of film, not videos. Actually, it was film, right? But yeah, so but it's real, that stuff. Look, this is another fact. Go on your phone. Can't tell you off the top of my head, but you can actually go on your iPhones and check to see what is running on your phone, because there's software running on your phone that you didn't install, that was already pre-installed. This software has a purpose, and they're conducting surveys. This is a fact. I went into my iPhone and I saw one of the software things, that the name of it, and that they were running. So I said, what is this? I didn't know. I went online and I looked it up. And it's basically what they're doing is they're conducting a survey to see, the amount of, or the rate, or how depressed teenagers are in America based off their cell phone usage. This is the fact. So if your teenager has a cell phone, they're part of a survey, right? And they're trying to identify depressed teenagers by what they search, by even their facial expressions through the camera. And that's scary. That's just scary to me. That's a fact. That's a real fact. Anyway, folks, did anyone go over to the bucket challenge? Let's see that again. Come on.
Every August until
I missed it. One more time. Come on. Again later. And this is part of the society that we live in. I always wondered, what did that accomplish? Does it actually raise money? I don't want to speak out. The challenge helped inspire billions. Did it make billions? Did it help inspire billions? Did it make, and this is all part of that agenda, really. I can tie this to what I was just talking about, right? So you want to talk about psyops? You want to talk about manipulation and control, and an actual survey being conducted, a real life, a real time survey. A lot of this stuff is to see how they can manipulate, the public, the masses. I honestly believe that this is one big joke that was created by the tech gods, the guys up at, Silicon Valley and stuff. And they said, let's see if we could get people to dump buckets of ice on their heads. And so they created this challenge, and now they got people to do it. I mean, people don't even talk about the cause, really, when I, hear them talking about it, especially when they first started doing this challenge. It was just all about dumping a bucket of ice on your head and then nominating somebody. And that person had to do it because they were nominated. Did any of them donate or even give any energy to the actual reason behind it, the ALS or ALS cause, disease or whatever? Anyone? I mean, did everyone just dump buckets of ice on their head and film themselves? So I don't understand it, I guess, but this is why we are in the situation I think that we're in. And I'm not, listen, this is just a fact. We're distracted. And we're not seeing what's happening in the world. So we're not able to really be effective in combating what's going on and making sure that we're holding our elected officials accountable and voting those who are going to truly do things for us and not allow our country to head in the direction that it is headed now, because we are going to be in World War III in the near future. That's a fact. That's a fact. So prepare yourself. Prepare yourself. But in the meantime, let's go dump buckets of ice, buckets on our head. We have a housing crisis. 3,000 people were hoping that they'd get a voucher, but they learned that they were only going to get on the waiting list at the Macy's lottery for affordable housing, because there's a housing crisis. There's food shortage. There's gas prices going up. And this is what they're doing. Did it do anything for ALS? At least, can you please tell me that it did something? Did it do something? Anything? Did they find the cure? Did someone dump buckets of ice in their head and had an epiphany afterward and created a cure? Yeah, I know. I'm a big a-hole because I just don't like silly stuff like this. I mean, there's so much going on in this world. Really? Anyway, folks, I'm Freddie Vasquez. I hope you enjoyed this show. And it's not even about you guys who are there. I'm talking to the politicians, but just everyone who was dumping buckets of ice on their head. I mean, I think people in Silicon Valley are laughing. Like, you know, we got them to all dump buckets of ice on their head. Look at them. And also, don't use those apps that that require you to take a picture of yourself, like, you know, so you can see how you look as a woman or as an older person or whatever. They're just getting data, and they probably already have it anyway. Facial recognition, because that's another thing. They're putting facial recognition software in all the cameras that the municipalities own. You know, those city cameras we see up. Believe it or not, they're installing facial recognition software in there. Where did they get the data from? I'm Freddie Vasquez, folks. We are headed into the future, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Take me back to the past. I used to watch those movies in the 80s, man. The futuristic movies. They were real scary. And it's coming true. Evil Empire. I'm Freddie Vasquez, folks. Prepare. My wife said I should create a show where I do like prepper stuff. Tell people what they need to be doing now. Listen. I can tell, folks, but it's up to you guys to do it. I'm actually putting a bunker in the house I'm going to be building for us. Not nowhere near New York. I promise you, I guarantee you that I am putting a bunker. I am serious as a heart attack. And hope I never have to use it. But we also have been purchasing a lot of non-perishable food. And we've been storing it here and also at our other home out of state, just in case. We're bringing it here just in case we can't make it there. We really have a whole plan. I'm telling you, we have a whole plan of escape, right? So think about that. I'm just saying, put away some food, you know, non-perishable food. You can buy it, you can store it up to, you know, I don't know how many years. You know, you buy it based on the size of your family. You know, solar powered generators. They actually have the water power ones also. I got a couple where if you like near a stream or a kind of a river flowing water, you put it in there, it generates power. So think about this stuff. Gas mask, guns, ammo. Why do you think they're trying to take away our guns? So I'm just telling you, folks, make sure, you know, just think about it. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Have a good night. I'm serious. I am most definitely a prepper.
I was raised in housing.
But now I'm a prepper.
I was raised in housing.
Prepper. Folks, make sure you prep it for the future. Make sure you putting food away. Get a sleeping bag also. Matches. It's serious. Radios, batteries, flashlights. I'm not kidding, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. One day you'll be saying, that guy Freddie, remember him? He was right. Have a good night, folks. He's not so crazy after all.
Freddie wins. Fatality.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez. You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez.
Thank you for watching Basement Politics with my husband, Freddie Vasquez.